The following story is also available as a read-only version. Check the link in the description if you're interested.
The ancient hag's domain was vast. Its dense forest was interrupted by large patches of bog in the most unexpected places. What orbital imagery had judged to be solid ground often turned out to be mangroves with particularly dense vegetation in the treetops. No guide had been willing to lead them through this treacherous land, no matter how many of their family members Lord Becarth had executed. It wasn't even that they did not want to, they simply couldn't. The few guides he'd been told would be able to help them travel unimpeded sounded like the product of folk legend more than people of flesh and blood. Lord Becarth sat on the back of his slowly trotting mount, a local beast the name of which he had never bothered to learn. The dense fur covering its stocky frame hid thick plates of cartilage, and its 4 yellow eyes continually darted across the horizon, always scanning. It was not very smart, but it was strong, and it did not buck. Many would have considered it beneath him to ride this kind of beast. Lord Becarth was tall and aristocratic, his features perfectly symmetrical, his elven ears only just poking through his pristinely kept silver hair. His carnelian eyes were penetrating, and his skin such a dark shade of grey that it was almost black. The armor he wore was painted in coal and platinum, laden with adornments and regalia. But he was nothing if not a pragmatist. The pitch-black stallion he was accustomed to was not made for this kind of travel. It was a gala horse, not a beast of burden.
"My lord, another of our scouts has gone missing," said Lixarp.
The grey rode a sleek hoverbike over the mushy ground, and his robe was as covered in circuitry as the massive dome of his skull. Like all members of his great form, he was uncomfortable to the point of being useless when not surrounded by technology. Through his psionic powers, he was the only one in the expedition capable of locating the hag, so Lord Becarth had allowed the wizard to take his many gizmos with him.
"She does not like us intruding on her home,"
Becarth assessed.
"Indeed, my lord. I would once again recommend a retreat. We could send our message to her a different way. The fleet will subject this wasteland to orbital bombardment."
"Out of the question. I would not want to antagonize this woman. She is a being of immense power, and she has not answered to anyone but herself for as long as the people of this world can remember. If we want to enlist her services, we will have to gain her loyalty."
"At the current rate of attrition, we will not have enough scouts to make the trip back. Not to mention the effect all of this is having on morale."
Lixarp gestured toward the rest of the expedition. Like Becarth, they were all Caxai, of the noblest elven blood. They were elite soldiers, loyal to their leader and the Council of Queens, but there was apprehension in their stoic stares. Fear, even. They were either peering at the ground or constantly on the lookout for monsters jumping from the shallows or the underbrush. Even his Sahit, clad in dark cowls and wearing white masks, were fiddling with their bows more than usual.
"I intend to return without the need for scouts. Once I have the old lady in my service, travel will be much easier," Becarth said.
"I know I have said this before, but I am not certain that your plan to impress her will be very effective, my lord."
No member of his own species would have dared to speak to Becarth that way. He employed Lixarp for the express purpose of questioning his decisions.
"You have instructed the Sahit to do as I commanded?" he asked.
"I have, my lord. The carcasses have been piling up. According to the rearguard, we may have attracted some scavengers," Lixarp informed.
"What kind of scavengers?"
"It's difficult to tell. We only know because sometimes a member of the rearguard goes missing."
Lord Becarth nodded.
"This place is dangerous indeed. Tell them to continue. May the Eternal Queen consume their souls."
That night, one of the Sahit came into Becarth's tent, interrupting his evening read. Despite the mask, her whispering voice was crisp as a winter morning.
"My lord and master, we have something that you will find most pleasing."
"I should like to see it."
Lord Becarth put down his reader and stepped outside.
where a beast the size of 2 grown men lay on the ground, illuminated by hovering glow spheres. Its long body was covered in barbed scales the color of murky water and overgrown with moss and algae. A cage of rigid tentacles surrounded its tubular mouth, each appendage lined with razor-sharp teeth. The locals call it a cluster lizard. It's
an apex predator that uses stealth and speed to catch its prey. It can gulp down even large creatures in just a few moments, Bakarth interrupted.
Yes, my lord and master. Master Lixarb told us to find one of them, if possible.
Bakarth nodded. A prudent decision. Did you kill it as instructed?
Unfelt and unseen, as is the Sahit way, my lord and master.
The Sahit circumflexed. Excellent. Put it with the others. Bakarth turned to go back inside his tent.
That is not all, my lord and master.
The Sahit handed him a scanner and gestured toward the cluster lizard. Inside the creature's stomach, he recognized a familiar shape. It seems one of our scouts has found his way back to us. May the Eternal Queen consume his soul.
May the Eternal Queen consume his soul,
the Sahit echoed. This will do nicely. You've done good work today. It took the expedition another 2 days to find the hag's homestead. Lixarp had found locating it difficult toward the end. Apparently her presence was diluted with the environment, which Bakarth considered an especially good sign. She lived in a sunken house built into the side of a hill. Gentle waves lapped on the shore of a small lake overgrown with duckweed, reeds, and long snaking pads of green. Careful, my lord, said Lixarp as Bakarth walked ahead with confidence. I need more time to sense potential dangers. Being a grey and a psionic at that, the finer elements of naturalistic magic eluded him despite his training. If she wanted us dead, we'd be dead. Bakarth felt power wash over him as he approached the hag's abode. She was watching him in more ways than one. In the name of the Council of Queens, I, Lord Bakarth of the House of Tsidai, formally invite you to an audience.
Council of Queens. Sounds interesting. Bakarth turned around quickly, but with confidence. A figure had appeared between himself and the rest of the expedition. The Sahit were already readying their bows to protect him, but he gave an ever so subtle command to stand at ease. The ancient hag was tall, taller than him, even though she was gnarled as an old tree and hunched over. Her slimy skin was the color of desert sand, and her eyes could not be seen, only felt through her squint.
It is the highest instance of our great empire. I am one of its servants. Lord Bakarth gave her a respectful nod.
I look around, I look at you, I do not see a servant. I see a man who is served.
The hag noted. Some servants are lowlier than others, especially in an empire as vast as ours.
I have heard of you, the Kuxai, an elven species. Some have found their way into my swamp. Do you know that the folk of this world pray to me to rid them of you? Not so long ago I was a monster in the bog. Now I am a goddess to many of them.
The folk of this world do not understand our glory, said Lord Bakarth.
Why are you here, then? If I wanted, I could kill you. They would bring me sacrifices for 1,000 years.
The ancient hag cocked her head ever so slightly. I've come to propose an alliance, enlist you for the cause. The hag paused for a moment. Whether she was surprised or insulted, Bakarth could not tell.
I do not serve the cause of any empires. The concept itself seems laughable to me.
Please, I do not want you to serve the empire. I want you to work with me personally. There is someone on this world, someone you know. I want her dead, and I want you to find her for me. The ancient hag cackled.
You trifle with great power. Dangerous power. Do not underestimate this woman. It did not work well for me at all.
I have the power of my empire at my disposal. Lord Bakarth gestured for the expedition to bring forth over a dozen animal carcasses, some of which had begun to rot.
The soldiers were careful not to get too close to the hag and placed the cluster lizard on top as the crowning achievement. "These are dead," the hag noted.
An astute observation. But where are they from?
Bekarth asked. The ancient hag approached the pile of dead creatures, touched one of them. She jerked back, hissing, and pinning Bekarth with a stare that was equal parts fear and hatred.
"These are from my domain. I did not feel them die around your caravan. How did you do this?"
I didn't. They did.
Bekarth gestured toward his Sahit, standing apart from the rest of the expedition.
"Are you trying to play me for a fool, elf?"
The ancient hag spat.
"There's no one there."
Oh, but there is. Do take a closer look.
Lord Bekarth could not help but have a smug smile on his face. The ancient hag stood still, straining her vision to look at the spot where the Sahit stood. She grumbled in frustration, her fingertips glowing brown, then green, then red.
"There's only a faint outline. It's so difficult to focus."
She stopped, turned back to Bekarth.
These Sahit are in my service.
You cannot see them even when they are in the heart of your domain. They are the most elite killers in the galaxy. Do you think she will see them coming? The hag breathed a few wheezing breaths.
"Not at all. You are more powerful than you let on, elf. You do let on quite a bit of power, but you understand that it's always good to keep a little extra stored away in a satchel somewhere."
She shook her head back and forth, considering.
"All right, I will help you. Let us go kill my dear old niece."
If you liked this story and would like to hear more, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. A new short story is uploaded every Wednesday, and there will occasionally be another one in between if I find the time. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.